The final bit that I would like to cover as an extra video is bringing audio into the engine. So in general, I do most of my audio actually in video editing rather than in the engine, particularly for video work. If I was doing game audio, then it becomes much more important for the audio to be in the engine. But for the process of video work, sometimes this can seem like just an extra step. But in general, the websites that I use to source sound and music from are the Free Music Archive and freesounds.org. So on the Free Music Archive, you can sort by categories and find different types of music and then preview them. In general, you have to do a little bit of audio shopping, so to speak. These are all free, but again, just like the other types of digital online shopping that we've explored throughout these last couple of weeks, the only real cost is the time it takes to find the assets. But to bring something like this into the engine, I would just go ahead and download it. Of course, keeping a running credits list is always great, and you will want to include credits on any audio you include in your video work. So this is a .mp3 file, so I believe we will have to convert it before we can bring it into the engine. But in preparation, I'm going to, in the engine, make a nice subfolder for sound. I believe the sound needs to be in a .wav file type. You'll see that it imported the sound when it was an MP3 as a file media source. This is not what we want. We could still make use of this, but for using it in the video sequencer or as a gameplay element even, we want it to be a .wav. So to convert this, since I have the Creative Cloud, I'm just going to use Adobe Audition, but you could use something like Audacity or any other free audio editing software. I have a folder for music on my computer, and here I have converted it to a .wav file. When it's in the right file format, you'll see this kind of icon, and if you hit the play button, you will hear the audio. Now what we actually have to do, though, is if we right-click on it, we want to create a cue, and an audio cue is what will be pulled by the engine. Much like a texture file doesn't go directly onto the assets, but rather goes through a material node first before it is applied to the assets. In the same way, you want an audio cue rather than just the audio file. In the audio cue, you'll actually find you can tweak some of the controls. You can add things like looping modifiers. You can adjust the pitch and have all sorts of audio effects triggered within just the audio cue, which is going to be separate from the audio file. So, for example, if you make several audio cues, you could have all of them pitched differently, as an example. But what you want is the audio cue, and if you want it to be as a gameplay element, now you can actually just drag the audio cue into the level. And now if you hit play, it will play the audio cue as soon as you cue into the level. But for use in sequencer, we don't necessarily want it in the level. I have just opened up my sequence that was the very first one I demoed here, which is the one with the flying gray box cam. And if I want to add in the audio track, I just need to add the audio track. You just right click and add audio, and here you can actually add either the cue or the raw sound, and you'll find in some of the other packs that they will have sound effects even. So this Rural Australia pack again has a really nice set of sound effects that were included, but I'm looking here for my music cue, which is this Quetzal Morning Bliss sound cue. So I'm going to open that, and I'm just going to extend it out. And now if I hit play on the sequencer, the audio plays. And of course, you could add this to the individual shots, or you could add it to your master sequence, which in a lot of cases for audio things, it'll be more useful, especially at least if it's like an audio track that's going to be applied across the entire video. For something like a sound effect, though, it's as simple as adding another audio track. And let's add, for example, this collapse sound. It will just play the one time by default, but if you just extend it out, much like the other animations, it will actually loop it. So if we want it to loop, say, twice in the middle of this. So there we have some music and some sound effects added in. If you really want to get super fancy with the sound effects work, you can actually go into specific animations and add trigger notifications. And so, for example, on the animation of our character walking, we could trigger it to play a specific sound effect each time his foot is down in the animation. So we just go to his animation and double click to open it. We'll see here we have a looping, playing version of his animation, which we can pause in here. And to add something like a sound effect, we would need to add notifies. So for example, we could say at frame 10, play a sound. And to pick which sound is played on these different notifies, you just select on the notify, and in the anim notify tab, you can pick the sound effect. So, for example, if you want like footstep sounds, you need to find footstep sounds and bring them in. Since I don't have those in this setup, I'm just going to pick a different sound cue to play. Perhaps an explosion. So every time he takes a step, we want to maybe play an explosion sound. So we'll say this frame, right? So as soon as his foot drops, I'll just Control C that and paste another one here. So if we were to play this, now it will trigger those sound cues when he is walking. So there, you could see the footsteps every time he was taking a step, it played the explosion noise. So that's a really quick and easy way to add footstep sounds or other continuously triggered sound work. Again, though, in the process of making video clips, I find that it's often just easier to do those kinds of things in the video editing software. Really, it's just whatever you find to be the easiest way to make this work, right? Like, you just don't want to make things harder for yourself. At the end of the day, it's all about just finding a flow that sits right with you.